Welcome to the Big Fat Real Estate Checks podcast with Marco Kozlowski, where we help investors like you get the knowledge and skills you need to replace your JOB with passive cash flow for life.
Hey everyone, welcome to Big Fat Real Estate Checks. My name is not Francesco Galluccio or Gabriel Araish. It is Marco Kozlowski, and welcome to, again, Big Fat Real Estate Checks. We're going to have a lot of fun today. This is the third of a series on debt takeovers, on the opportunity that is now in the marketplace that is a repeat of the cycle that actually got me started. And that's kind of why I'm very excited, because 23 years ago when I first got into the business, this is the market cycle that was going on. And I'm pretty excited because I've waited 23 years for the same cycle where interest rates are going up. The equity that's been created over the inflationary time and cheap money has slowed down significantly and now actually is stalling and going backwards, eroding the equity that people have captured in the short period of time. And anyone that really needs to sell is going to be forced to sell the property at a discount because there are fewer buyers because of the high interest rates. I'm basically recapping what we've done over the last two episodes. And if you understand the mortgage cycles and when to step into those cycles, that knowledge and the application of that knowledge will make you very wealthy very quickly. In fact, the property that I'm living in right now, I bought by taking over debt. I did not create the debt. Someone else created the debt. Very low interest rate, stepped into it. And I'm going to be doing it again and again and again. So I've been waiting quite a bit of time to be able to do that. So we're going to talk about that it's possible, and not only possible, you should take over other people's debt if you do it responsibly. It's just like drinking or anything else. You have to do it responsibly. If you are not careful, and you could hurt yourself, or as I said, corrected myself in the last episode, worse, not help other people, but actually hurt other people, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do. So we're not going to give you the details that I'm delighted to give you, but it would have to be on a more in a class environment where I can really make sure that step by step you have and understand all the steps, what has to be said, the disclosures, and how to do this without putting yourself or your counterpart in a lot of hot water. Okay, so let's talk about debt takeover. Can it be taken over? Why? Let's get into it. Gabe, I'm going to let you start this time because we're going to make this a short episode.
I resent that, but it's true.
Well, when we're talking about taking over debt, the first question that I'm always asked, and I don't know about you two, but I feel like it's probably going to be the same, is, well, can you really do that, or is it legal?
Is it legal?
Yeah, they say forget about it. You can't do that.
Exactly.
Hey.
So the answer is it is legal, and you actually have to go back in time in order to see the reason why this was made.
Oh, is that why you're wearing that T-shirt?
Legal.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, you just you have to go back in time,
so.
back to the future. Legendary.
It's very intentional.
It's
very intentional.
It's so intentional. Yes. It's coincidental and accidental. But nevertheless,
or is it? Subconsciously.
Okay, we're back in time.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
we're good.
We're good.
Yeah, we're gonna go back in time. In the last episode, Marco discussed how there was equity swaps for the mortgage swaps. Forgive me. In a time where there was extremely high inflation, where interest rates were ridiculously high. We feel they're high now, but they were like 3 times as high back then. And what happened is that at that point, so in the 80s, and I don't know if you guys have an exact date for the Garn-St Germain Act,
86,
the Garn-St Germain Act came into law, and basically that act is what now allows you or gives you a way to be able to step into other people's debt, and this is going to apply only to residential properties, if you will. This does not work for commercial properties, so we're looking at anything that's under 5 units.
It's 82, I'm
82,
sorry.
82 it is. I should remember this. My brother was born in 82.
Yeah, it's the Garn-St Germain Act.
That's when Italy won the World Cup.
Sorry.
82. Paulo Rossi.
Yeah. Isn't that when the Leafs won?
No, the Leafs.
No,
that's
way
back
before
in the
that.
60s, yeah.
Yeah. I think there was no color TV
Sorry.
back then. Yeah. And essentially that act has it permits the I guess the same system of mortgage swaps, but it's got to be done under careful consideration, and you have to follow the steps very carefully. It's not easy, but the point that they're simple steps, but they're not easy to perform. So essentially, that's kind of the historic lesson behind why these exist.
Well, why did the Garn-St Germain Act actually come into effect? So, Frank,
I was going to say the banks probably didn't like it. They knew people were doing that, and if you listen to the previous episode, a mortgage has 3 trimesters, and in the first one, that's where the majority of interest is being paid. And when people were swapping out mortgages during a high interest rate period, the banks are saying, "Shit, we're losing money, right? Because we want Marco to step into a new mortgage and restart that the first trimester where you're paying
a higher interest
at
rate.
of course, right? So they're losing money on the interest rate, and they're losing money on that cycle.
Origination fees, there's a new mortgage fee. You're a dumbass and you're getting this mortgage with us, fee. So whatever fees and percentages that they would stack onto that, they were now losing. And so what they did actually is put in the due on sale clause.
Exactly.
So first there's a due on sale clause that started, right? And it's still in effect today. So if you have a change of ownership or a percentage change of ownership, it instantly triggers a due on sale clause, which is what everyone knows, right? Oh, you can't do that because the bank's going to pull the rug from underneath you and call the loan due. And sometimes a loan can be called for many reasons. Most people think that a foreclosure is because you're not making your payments. Well, if there's a balloon mortgage, just quick lesson on mortgages because this is important. If there's only a year left in a mortgage and you don't refinance, you're basically going to go into foreclosure. You've done nothing wrong other than you haven't paid the loan back under the terms that are set forth in the mortgage. And I learned that lesson the hard way because I would learn how to take over debt, not realize that there was a 6-month balloon payment, and I was faced with having to refinance the property. And I had made promises to a seller that I would, and I couldn't because I was Canadian, didn't have the credit. And you get in a lot of trouble when you make a promise that you can't keep. And I've earned my ability to teach because I've made more lessons than most. And I've been attacked more than most, and I've been injured more than most, and I've licked my wounds and survived. And I want to empower those to not make the same mistakes. So, and this is very relevant to this whole discussion in that trimester is important as to where we're possibly stepping into debt. But before we get into that, the reason why you want to step into debt is it's cheaper money. And the dangers are that there is a due on sale clause that was trumped by the Garn-St Germain Act in 1982. And 1986 is important for some reason in this whole thing, and I don't quite I don't remember why. I should have done research before just plowing into this, but I'm sure we'll get some email and some hate mail. We gotta love the haters, that are going to school us as to what the exact timeline is. We just like shooting these podcasts and making mistakes and celebrate our mistakes. That's just how we do things. Because our desire is to be as accurate as possible, obviously, but stir the pot with those people that are very detail oriented. So anyway, I'm on a tangent. So due on sale clause basically stops people from doing mortgage swaps or equity swaps. Hey, I have money. I'll take your mortgage. Oh, and then they take that money, they take over somebody else's mortgage, and they're just basically constantly reshuffling this money in order to avoid paying 18%. Banks say, what the fuck? We're losing money, due on sale clause.
Well, and that's when the politicians came in and passed the law with the Garn-St Germain. Yeah.
In Utah, yeah. It's a Utah, someone in Utah basically said, fuck this. We want to be able to still do this within the confines of the law. So they put together the Garn-St Germain Act in 1982 that basically says that if you structure the ownership correctly, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but it is illegal for a bank to call the loan due. Illegal, which means you're protected by federal law if you understand the intricacy of the Garn-St Germain Act. But there's a caveat to this that it is only valid for single families, duplexes, triplexes, and quads. So only residential property. You cannot use the Garn-St. Germain Act to your advantage in a multifamily. Ask me why I know that. Yeah. So applying knowledge correctly is important. So back to you, Bob.
Well, essentially, that's the answer to the question: is it really possible? Is it legal? So it is, and that's backed up by the Garn-St. Germain Act of 1982, which you're welcome to Google search whatever you want to do with it. It's clear as day, except when you're reading law, because lawyers like to make things unclear to keep their jobs. But bottom line is that that's the legality behind it. You now know the reason why this was put into place. It just was to help the people for once, not suffer at the hands of the banksters. And so here we go.
Well, actually, it did put an end to mortgage swaps for those that didn't understand how to use the Garn-St. Germain Act to their advantage. Because what people were doing, wealthy individuals specifically, put their property into isolated entities like an LLC, a trust, FLP, whatever entity that you want to use for either asset protection purposes to stay away the predators and creditors, or leave your estate to your and avoid probate by putting things in an entity that will actually shield them from probate. And the due on sale clause would prohibit wealthy individuals from being able to do that. And that's the solution that they created that allows us to piggyback on that and take over debt, basically. So it's a loophole that was not intentionally created for equity swaps, by the way. It was originally intended for asset protection purposes. Correct. Or estate planning purposes or tax purposes, to allow you to put things into a separate entity in order to, without the bank taking it back, in order to really take care of your family and your assets for a long time, which underlines the fact that all laws are written at the end of the day to really protect wealthy humans. And if you understand that and play by that rule, you will also be wealthy.
That's right.
You don't have to be wealthy to play by those wealthy rules.
And a fun fact here is that the banks also technically benefited from this, because really the real reason that was killing banks is that if you're doing so when interest rates are high, they're high on loans, but they're also high on the interest that they got to pay on your savings, right? So if you put money in a bank, they got to pay a higher interest rate, even though it's minimal. It's still going to be higher than what they would have paid in a low interest rate environment. So when what banks do is when you deposit money, they take that money and then multiply it by 10, and then they lend that out at an interest rate. That's what loans are and mortgages. And when you're doing all these these mortgage swaps, if you're swapping with a spread that's significantly high, like going from 8 to 18%, what happens is the bank is paying out more on your savings than they are collecting on the loans. So that's putting the bank in a negative position. And had that gone on, banks would have most likely, started defaulting. And that was the main reason why the bank stepped in and said, hey, this can't go on. And the Garn-St. Germain Act, yes, was put into place for the reasons Marco mentioned. And what's fortunate for the bank is most people don't. They just see that something can't be done or is harder to be done or don't know it can be done, and then they just go on with their merry ways. And then, yes, the wealthy were usually surrounded by extremely educated individuals or people who understand the rules and the laws and play by them, and they keep taking advantage of these, I guess not loopholes, but opportunities, because it is there for everyone to use. It's not a loophole. It's every single one of you can use this if you know how to use it. And
actually, it never really went away. And Marco, you pointed out just before we jumped on the podcast, it's actually on a HUD. So if you don't know what a HUD is, it's a closeout statement, or like when you purchase a property, it just gives the whole summary of who pays what in terms of the buyer and the seller. And there's actually a line item, that Marco, that you alluded to, that's always been there, and just people just fluff over it or just skip over it. I forgot what line item you said it was, but it was 203, and that's just basically taking over existing debt. And so there is a line item. There's just people don't know how to use it, because it is a lost art. What happened over the years, but like Marco said, the wealthy people know how to use it, or use loophole or strategy, and they use it to their advantage. And I again, knowledge is power when you implement it. And if you know it and know how to use these tools, you can be much better off, especially in this cycle. Any economic cycle presents opportunities. This isn't going to be no different. This is just to repeat what you did, Marco. And I think you were going to mention before an example. If you did take over a mortgage and there was a balloon, I believe you used to get into a certain strategy where you would do lease options.
Yep. We can talk about that in the next episode.
You don't want to talk about it right now? All right. That's fine.
Well, we can, but
we don't need to.
Keep them guessing.
I want the listener to be upset right now. That we're going to talk about something that made me. I think when I started this strategy, I made $100,000 in 90 days. But they didn't want to hear. They don't want to hear about that. No,
there's no interest in it.
No.
Pocket change.
Yeah, you can't live on it, but it's a good start. So the where was I with this? Mortgages are cool if you understand them. And yeah, line item 203 basically is taking over evicting. It basically says taking. It says something like taking over existing debt subject to the existing mortgage, leaving the debt in place basically. And if you ask any real estate agent, ever, not any, because I think that puts too much of a big blanket around most real estate agents, and I take that back. Many real estate agents don't even know that the debt can actually be taken over. And most people go into the word assumption. Now, I don't assume debt. I want to be clear on that. Any debt that we do is a takeover, not an assumption. Assumption means that you're actually qualifying for the loan with a bank. And even if you are extremely creditworthy and are spectacular on credit, the old borrower is still most likely going to stay on anyway if you do an assumption. So it's adding a lot of risk to you as a borrower. And in the hundreds and hundreds of properties that I've taken over debt, not once have I qualified for it. It's a complete debt takeover, meaning you're just servicing the debt. You're not actually responsible for it, which will be very difficult for some of you to noodle around. Very difficult that you can actually service a debt, own the property. I'm going to say it again. You can own the property, but the debt is actually responsible by somebody else. It means if you default, you'll lose the property. So you're technically on. If you want to keep that property, you better make that payment. And if you don't make the payment, there's some consequences to that as well if you've made promises. And there's a whole bunch of laws against doing things poorly. It's called equity skimming, and you're really going to get in trouble if you are not careful with these tools. It's like not understanding how to use a gun. You can really hurt yourself and worse others. So that's why I want to not give all the details, but just know that it's a very powerful tool when you really know how to use it. Gabe, I know you want to say something here.
Good. I just wanted to add that that's the benefit of all this, is that you can step into someone's payments without having to qualify for it. So whether you feel like you have no money or no credit or poor credit, this is not going to impact your ability to take advantage of the opportunities that are around the corner.
Which is, I think, what we're going to discuss in the next episode if we feel like it. We'll see. Stay tuned. People are listening. Well, that's that. Thank you, listener, and hopefully we're not too crazy for you. Please like us, love us, share us. Tell all you know that this is the coolest thing since bread that has been sliced with swords or knives. And I hope you join us on the next episode. Of course, give us some great reviews. Always looking for that. And subscribe. And we will see you in the next episode, where we're going to, if you join us, I might possibly maybe share some strategies that can make you very wealthy very quickly. But if you don't want to do that, that's okay. We understand. See ya. Bye. Are you still here? Because I want to know if you're actually listening. Because in 3 seconds, I'm going to give you the secret that will blow your mind.
If you like this episode of Big Fat Real Estate Checks, then show some love by leaving a comment and a good rating. Also, as a thank you for tuning in today, we've got a special free gift. The journey to passive cash flow for a life starts by finding deals, and it's easier than you think. Simply go to getdealsbytuesday.com, enter your email address, and we'll send you a free quick start course called Deals by Tuesday. Even if it's 11 p.m. Monday night, this course will show you how to find discounted real estate deals by Tuesday. It's that fast and simple. Go to getdealsbytuesday.com and start your journey toward life-changing cash flow today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.